Kia ora, Tato. Welcome back to another Q&A here at Digital Boost. I'm Georgia Hatchis, and today I'm really excited to have Jason Dodd with us all the way from Spain. He's a Kiwi, but we were just having this whole conversation about how he's in Spain right now working remotely. And I'm so jealous of the sunshine. So we're going to be talking today about Google Ads, 5 ways to maximize your budget. Jason is the owner of Pogo Stick Web Services, and he will tell you all about himself and what he's got going on. Any questions you may have during the session, you can pop them into the Q&A, or if you're streaming from our socials, you can put them in the comments. Just to let you know, I'm going to wait until the very end for the questions. So if you have questions in between, pop them in, that's fine. And then we'll ask them at the end and get Jason's expertise. So join the conversation. Welcome, Jason. So lovely to see you.
Thank you so much, Georgia. It's great to be here. And yeah, thanks everyone for taking some time out to join us today for this presentation. Thank you, Georgia, for organizing this and to Digital Boost for hosting the event. Like we were just talking about Spain, and honestly, the Digital Boost program would be fantastic here. Maybe Georgia can speak to someone at the New Zealand Embassy here about putting it into practice here, but it's just such a fantastic asset, really, for New Zealand business owners, in my opinion. Just that free education is just invaluable, really. As a business owner myself, I can vouch for that.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. It would be great if we could spread it all over the world. How much could the world benefit and the SMEs of the world benefit from just free education, just learning how to run a business, how to do just the simple things. So
Yeah,
yeah, I'm excited to
absolutely.
find out about the Google Ads.
Yeah, for sure. And there's so much that we could talk about. Obviously, we don't have time to talk about everything related to it. And like with a lot of Google products, it is very easy to go down some very deep rabbit holes when it comes to their products. I don't know what it is about software engineers, but they have this talent for taking something that was simple and worked well and turning it into something very complicated. And I think anyone who's on the call today who's maybe made the transition with other Google products like Universal Analytics to GA4, you've seen how things can get very complicated. So for today, we're going to try and keep things relatively high level, bright and breezy for a Tuesday morning. We don't want to kind of overwhelm anyone. And we also realize that for some of you, you may never have used Google Ads before. Maybe you've been too afraid to kind of make a start with it. For some others, maybe they've used it in the past, but they haven't used it for a really long time. And there's been a lot of changes with Google Ads and the product and the interface and how it's used. And so there's kind of this fear of the unknown, I think. So we'll try to keep it high level. As Georgia mentioned, there'll be an opportunity for questions at the end of the presentation. Now, just to manage expectations, I may not be able to answer all of your questions. And part of that is just because in a lot of situations, there's so many variables, so many different factors, and my opinion may not be specifically what is right for your business. So I can give you my opinion, that's no problem. But sorry, I can't be your magic 8-ball. I don't have all the answers. So we'll try and get through as many as we can at the end of the presentation. But for the purpose of going through these 5 points today, we will just try to keep it high level, as I've mentioned. Just a quick, if I may, Georgia, just a quick little background. My background, previously, before becoming a business owner myself, I worked for a lot of software companies. Some of them are very big, kind of multinational software companies, and mostly in a digital marketing role. That's with SEO, search engine optimization, but a lot of it was the pay-per-click stuff, so Google Ads, and we're sort of talking $1 million budgets. This is one thing that I noticed actually changing from being a sort of a corporate marketer to having my own business is it's very easy to spend someone else's money when it comes to Google Ads. When you start using Google Ads for yourself and it's your money that you're spending, you start to become a lot more aware of the expenses, the dollars and cents. So I definitely noticed that, but there were a lot of principles, a lot of takeaways that I took from kind of the corporate world, where I was very much a specialist, to being kind of a business owner, where, as you may know, in some ways you become more of a generalist. You're having to wear a lot of different hats, and you know it's been a learning curve, but it's actually been really good. Actually, I've really enjoyed the journey. And I love the freedom actually of having my own business. I do miss the regular paychecks though. I will just say that, and also the the coffee machine as well. I just put a shout out to that. Yeah. So sorry, I'm getting a bit off track, but let's bring it back to Google Ads. So just before we get into the 5 points that we're going to cover today, I just want to talk a bit about kind of where Google Ads started. So this was kind of in the early 2000s, when, you know, Google was still very new. You know, they had this amazing search engine that had never been seen before. And obviously the likes of Larry Page, obviously having to think about how do we monetize this. So obviously advertising was top of the list. There are 3 core principles that Google Ads was built on. These 3 principles, they still talk about them today. The 3 principles are relevance, results, and control. And it's that last point that we really will be covering today, is control. Because it is true, digital advertising gives advertisers control. But what we are seeing, particularly kind of in recent months, recent years, is that some of that control is sort of being taken away from advertisers. And part of what you'll be able to take away from today's presentation is how to kind of get back some of that control. I think that's really important, because, you know, if you think of it as maybe driving a car, you know, if you think back to when you were learning to drive a car, what's one of the first things that you know, whether it was your mum or your dad teaching you to drive, you know, they told you where the brake was and how to use the brake. You know, this is one of the most important things, and it really is very true when it comes to your paid advertising. You kind of need to know what the brakes are, where the brakes are, and how to use them, so that you don't get this kind of leakage with your ad spend, and you stay in control. And that's really, really important. And I know we've already mentioned the benefits of the Digital Boost program, but I want to, and I'm not getting paid to say this, but please take advantage of all the resources in the Digital Boost program, because the best thing that you can do as a business owner is educate yourself. Sure, you may outsource some of what you do. For example, you may have an agency taking care of your Google Ads. It's still really important for you to educate yourself, even if it's just a basic education. If we go back to the illustration of a car, driving a car, you don't need to know all the parts under the hood, but it's really important you know how to drive and how to drive well. And you know, it's really true with Google Ads. Educate yourself on some of the basics, and there's a lot of resources kind of on the Digital Boost website to help you with that. So the first thing we're going to look at, and I'll share my screen, and I did mention to Georgia earlier that I have the Google Ads screen that we'll walk through. I don't have any dummy data to share with you. I have client data, but I can't, for obvious reasons, I can't share that with you. But I do have a dummy account, and it'll just be used to kind of show you how to navigate through the Google Ads interface. So you can see what it looks like as we go through kind of each of the points, the 5 points that we're looking at. So I'll just share my screen now if I can. Right. And all right, so hopefully you can see the Google Ads interface.
Yep, that looks great.
Cool, awesome. Thanks. So yeah, the interface has undergone some changes, and if you used Google Ads in the past, maybe more of a classic interface in the years gone by, this one might look quite different. But this is kind of the new style. And you can see front and center, and I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but is just to explain kind of what Google are doing with the changed interface is that, and this will come back to kind of the point I was making about control, is that you'll see that, right under kind of the overview on the left-hand side there, the left-hand menu, you've got your overview, but then straight under that, you've got recommendations. So this is Google trying to be helpful. We'll talk a little bit more about that in one of the later points. But this is kind of the idea, I guess, what I'm saying behind the changed interface is that, it's a little bit like maybe they're changing the car from being a manual to an automatic. They want to try and take over a little bit. But the first point on our list is search terms. So that is under insights and reports, and we go down to search terms. Now, obviously, this is a dummy account. There aren't actually any search terms in here, but this is where you'll find them after you've been running your ad account for even for a short while. You'll start to see kind of which search terms your campaigns are showing up for. Now, why this is important is because you might say that you want to show up for keywords, but what happens is that Google decides they use variants of the keywords that you've selected. So if you, for example, you have a lawn mowing business, if someone types in, someone to cut my lawn, this is a similar phrase. So Google is going to generally show your ad for that particular person, that particular search query. And under search terms is where you will find, kind of the words or the phrases that your ads are showing up for. So it's really important to go through these because even though the Google algorithm is pretty smart in terms of trying to find kind of relevant search queries that relate to your business, it doesn't always get it right. And it can end up maybe showing your ad for something that's not really relevant, or it's just maybe even it's maybe not even a service that you offer. So obviously you don't want to be your ad showing up for things that are irrelevant. So the idea is you would go through the search terms, and you would actually you can choose to exclude them by adding them to what's called a negative keyword list. So this is a way of telling Google that you don't want your ads to show up for this particular search term. And it's a bit like maybe if you're using Spotify or Amazon Music, like you say, you don't like a song, and it updates the algorithm. So this is where you would do that. You would actually try and influence kind of where your ads are showing up. It's also a good way if you're seeing a particular search word that's showing up that's really good, that's maybe successful, then you can actually start to focus more on that. You can capitalize on words or phrases that you're showing up for that are actually doing well.
Jason, I'm going to just stop you for a
Yeah,
moment.
sure.
I'm just technical stuff. I'm seeing
Yeah.
in the Q&A here that people are only seeing a black screen. Is that just I'm just wondering if it's one participant. Other attendees, if you're watching, can you see the shared screen? If you can see this shared screen, you can kind of put your hand up. Yep, Nadine can see it. Yep. Yeah, okay, so you can see the shared screen. All right, so it might just be a technical issue
Okay.
with one of the participants.
Maybe
Okay,
on,
thanks, everybody. Thank you. Sorry to
no,
interrupt your
yeah,
flow.
that's fine. Maybe on a smaller screen possibly.
Everyone can see
Yeah,
it. Yeah,
so
yeah.
the search terms report really is going to be a good friend for you to work through and to check it regularly. Like all these points that we'll be discussing, they're things that you should be checking regularly. And I would say definitely be checking them. Definitely in the early stages, you want to be checking more often because it's a little bit like, setting something off on course. At first it could go in any direction. Sometimes, you can get a bit of that with the Google Ads campaign. So you really want to be kind of pushing it in the direction that you want it to go. So yeah, all these things you should be checking regularly, but that search terms report is definitely very helpful. Just one little point on this is that you'll probably see that you'll be getting a lot of like there's a number of either impressions or clicks that where it says the search term is not known. Well, yeah, Google say it's for privacy reasons. Yeah, it's probably debatable. It's probably a discussion for another time, but that does pose a little bit of a difficulty. There are ways that you can do it using some technical Google Analytics reports, but for the purpose of this discussion, we'll just say that unfortunately, there will be some search terms that you won't know about. So you can only try and use what you've got in front of you. Yeah, so I will just say sorry, but that's kind of how Google operating kind of at the moment. We'll move on to the second point, which is finding converting keywords. So these are the keywords that you have as part of your Google Ads campaign. And so the next 2 points that we'll be covering talk about conversion. So it's probably worth that we just spend a quick moment just talking about conversions, because that's really, if you're running a Google Ads campaign without conversions or without reporting on conversions, then I have to be honest and say that you're probably just throwing money away. It's so important that you know kind of what keywords, what ads are working, and the only way really to know that is to know which ones lead to a conversion. So if you don't have conversions set up and you are currently running a Google Ads campaign, I would probably suggest pausing the campaign and just getting some conversions set up. And it's not just a technical thing. I mean, there is a technical component to setting up conversions, but it's also understanding what is important to your business and what is, like it's very easy, I guess, if you do online sales, then obviously a sale is a conversion. That's a very simple example of a conversion. But for other businesses, maybe leads are a conversion, or a sign up to a newsletter is a conversion. That's really something that you as a business owner need to think about. What is something that's really meaningful? What is worth me spending money on Google ad clicks to get someone? Is it just someone to view a page? Maybe not. Maybe you're only getting that return on your investment if you're actually getting someone to take some action. So whatever that action is, then you can decide, well, this is my conversion, and then you can go about getting that set up in Google Ads as a conversion. You may need some technical help with that. I have actually been through in Google Ads, they try to be helpful by sort of walking you through the process. I followed the process for a WordPress website, and I have to say the instructions are actually terrible. They possibly would break your website. So don't just blindly follow the Google instructions on setting up a conversion. It might be worth getting someone to, if you're not confident with setting up a conversion, get some help to do that. So that said, if you've got your conversions in place, then awesome. That's a really key component of your campaign, and really should be a cornerstone of your campaign. And what is a successful campaign? What is not a successful campaign? So the first one we're going to look at is keywords. So hopefully you're familiar with keywords. By the way, like I'll mention, I mean, it might sound like jargon. If you're not familiar with Google Ads, some of what I'm talking about may just sound like gibberish. Don't feel bad about that. Honestly, you're not expected to know this stuff. If you're in business, you have a skill set, you have a wheelhouse of, this is what you do, whether it's plumbing or, cutting grass, or, you're an architect, or whatever your skill set is, that is what you do. You shouldn't be expected to just know this stuff. So don't be afraid to ask questions, even if you think it's a stupid question. You should never feel embarrassed about not knowing kind of what a keyword is, or search terms, or conversions, or any of that kind of stuff. It comes back to what I said earlier about educate yourself, and you can do that by asking questions. And also, don't be afraid to get a second opinion. You can ask someone, go get a second opinion, third opinion. Like that's how the internet works. That's how getting information from the internet is all about. You don't just take one source. You generally take a variety of sources, and the truth will be somewhere in the middle. So I just want to mention that, because some people do feel a bit kind of reticent about asking questions. They feel like, oh, everybody knows this stuff except for me, and I'm the idiot in the room. But please don't feel like that.
No, we definitely at Digital Boost ask all the questions. We definitely are not afraid to ask our questions. But I do want
Awesome.
to honor the fact that you want to wait until the end. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't mind if someone has to leave, can't stay until the end, and they want us. I'm happy to go away and do some research for someone if they have a question, or and circle back. So yeah. Right. So looking at in terms of the keywords that we're looking at, we can go down to our section here, under audience, keywords, and content, and we've got our search keywords. So these are the keywords that we when we were setting up the campaign. This is a process you go through when you first create a Google Ad account. You create a campaign as well. You'll add some keywords, and these will be keywords that you think are relevant to your business and relevant to kind of what maybe the action you want people to take on your website. So if you're selling shampoo, for example, then, or hair care supplies, then your keywords will be around things like buying shampoo, or buying conditioner, or whatever. And so you'll have them all listed, and you'll be able to use the search keywords report there to see how it's performing. And the one thing that we're particularly interested in is conversions. So you'll see that is one of the columns that shows by default with Google Ads. You can, as I mentioned, this is just dummy data, so there are no conversions showing, but this is where you'll see it, and you can sort by it. This is also a feature as well with the Google Ads interface, is you can hover over a column heading, and it will give you a bit of a description about what is the information that you're looking at. But really conversions is key. You want to look at these keywords that are working, and then once you sort of identify them, then you can maybe make a separate list. You can really focus on what are your best keywords, and you might decide if a keyword's really working well, then you can actually shift your budget. you know, so even if you don't want to increase your budget and spend more on this particular keyword, what you can do is you can set a specific bid adjustment for a keyword, so that you know, you always want to get that top position in terms of the ad rank. You can say, well, this keyword is good for my business. I'm going to sort of dedicate more of the budget for that particular keyword. So it's just a way of being more aware, I guess, of what's working. And if you've got that conversion measurement in place, you know, then this is a way where you can see exactly if it's working and for what keywords it's working for. So definitely that is something you want to keep in mind. You may even set up a separate campaign or a separate ad group for those particular keywords. Following on from that is ads that are converting. So we'll just go to that section of the, and so this is all on the left-hand side there, all these options. And I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I do have a download that is available. So if you've missed any of these points that we've covered, I put a link on our website, PokerStep Web Services. You can also Google affordable websites, you'll find us. I've put it on the homepage. There's a link there, so you can go there and download a PDF of all these points, and you can actually use it as a worksheet if you like. Maybe you can print it out, put it beside your computer, and it can be a visual reminder for you to check these things on a regular basis. So we've got under campaigns, we've got ads, and once again we've got our ads there, and conversions is once again a column in this by default. So yeah, once again you'll see there's zero conversions, but this is where you'll find them. Now, just a point that if you use Google Ads in the past, you will remember that you kind of had to create separate ads, individual ads. So Google changed that a little bit. They created these kind of responsive ads where you basically provide a certain number of headlines, a certain number of descriptions, and Google's fancy algorithm will kind of mash it all together and create an ad for you based on what it thinks is performing best, what headline is performing best, or what description is working. So sometimes that can make it a little more difficult to know what particular aspect of the ad was working. But through a process of kind of elimination, you can actually kind of nail down maybe a specific call out or a specific headline that seems to be working. And you might just choose to create ads that are a bit more same. So you create one ad, one responsive ad that's has a particular theme. Maybe you talk about a particular unique selling point of your business, and that ad is just only about that one particular USP or selling point of your business. And that way you can kind of differentiate a little bit when it comes to the reporting. There is also a feature with the new Google Ads where you can use what's called a variant. So you can actually, there's an option here to create an ad variation. So, you know, you can use this, you can open up and create a variation, and it's a sort of a simple way to test. They call them an A/B test. Basically, it's where you can run something for a period of time and see which one works best. So that's just another option. But yeah, so that once again, it's just about looking at, you know, the different parts of your campaign and where the conversions are happening. I think if you want to take away kind of the key point from these two things is really look for where the conversions are happening, and then kind of zero in on those things. Right. Right. So getting back to, this is the fourth point that we'll be looking at, and this is the recommendations. So I some of you who know me probably realize I'm a little bit of a cynic at heart. I blame years of working in marketing for this, but I actually, even though I don't want you to become kind of an old cynic like me, I actually would say that a bit of healthy cynicism is actually really useful when it comes to using Google Ads. And kind of on that point, you have to remember something, and this is really important. And you might, if you set up a Google ad account and start creating campaigns, you may actually get Google contacting you. Make sure it is actually Google and not some random person from some random country. But Google may actually contact you and offer you some help. Now, this sounds really nice, and they offer to help you with your campaign. And I think they call them support reps, or possibly, I don't know, but it's something you have to remember is that Google's primary goal is that they just want you to spend as much, like they want you to increase your budget. That is kind of their primary goal. And, I think it's really important to remember that. And I'm not saying that in itself is necessarily a bad thing. As they say, sometimes you have to spend money to make money. But just remember, that is what Google wants you to do. They want you to spend, I mean, they're a business, okay? They're not here to make friends. They're here to make money. And so it is important to remember that. And this, when it comes to talking about these recommendations, some of them really are designed more to serve Google's interests in increasing your budget or increasing your ad spend, as opposed to actually helping your business. So it's just, if you're taking notes, like just write that down somewhere, because I do have clients who seem to forget that, and it's just really important. I'm not saying their recommendations are bad or wrong, and I have actually, that's why I've included them in the list of the 5 things to check, is that sometimes they actually have some good ideas, and they have things that maybe were a bit of a blind spot you hadn't realized, or things that you can try. So I'm not saying say no to everything, but just, remember that they're primarily interested in making you increase your budget. And I know some agencies also charge clients based on their ad spend. And so, like you have to remember that there is an incentive for them, for you to spend more. So just keep that in mind anyway. So yeah, there are a whole bunch of recommendations. Google have also conveniently offered an option where you can automatically apply all recommendations. In terms of the point of today's presentation about maximizing your budget, I would say don't do that. Don't auto apply all the recommendations. It's maybe it was fine for me when I was working for a big company and you have a big $1 million budget and you're spending someone else's money. That's fine. But when it's your business and, you need to be in control of the spend, it's, don't just kind of tick a box that says apply all, because what they recommend may not be suitable for your business. But yeah, definitely check them from time to time, because sometimes they have some good ideas, some things you can add to your ads that can actually help. Just one last point on this is that Google ad campaigns generally have like an optimization score. This is also this is a bit of psychology happening here as well, is that because we all want 100%, don't we? Like we all want something to be 100% because it makes us feel good. Google know that, and a lot of software companies know that. They call it gamification, and it basically plays with the psychology that if something is not 100%, then kind of automatically we think there's something wrong. I would just say don't fall for that, please, because it's not correct. Even if Google is saying the optimization on your campaign is 70%, to be honest, I would say just ignore that. Check the things that we mentioned before, your conversions. Are you getting conversions? Are you getting sales? Are you getting leads? Are you getting signups? That should be your true measure of optimization, not kind of a sort of an AI generated percentage. So yeah, that's just one last point I wanted to make on when it comes to checking Google's recommendations. It's fine for like for helping with brainstorming sessions or trying something different with your campaign, but yeah, just don't take it as gospel. Okay, so the last thing we want to just check is something called Auction Insights. So that is under Insights and Reports, and we have Auction Insights. Once again, you're going to have to use your imagination here with the screen, but this is where you'll see them. You'll have other advertisers in your space. So that can be a really good way, particularly if you're a new advertiser. You may be up against some seasoned pros, or some advertisers who have been in the business for a long time, and they kind of they've got a good system going. To be honest, you can use this as a way to see what other advertisers are doing. Maybe check out their website, see all their landing pages or their ads that are being displayed. Maybe they're doing something that you're not doing. So this is a way that you can just funnel that back into your ads and get more bang for buck in terms of your current ads, your current keywords, and your website as well, making sure that it's really set up as this really kind of slick ad, like it's kind of meant to be like this big harmonious system of you have an ad, it clicks through to your website and it converts. You have to imagine this sort of ecosystem. And so maybe looking at what other advertisers are doing can give you some good ideas on some things that you could do. And to be honest, you might actually see some things that they're actually doing really badly. Maybe they have a really disjointed marketing program, and that might be an opportunity for you to do better and to get more of the share of advertising space when it comes to, or impression shares is one of the columns that you can see there on the screen. So this is how much, I guess, an advertiser is dominating the space. But yeah, definitely an excellent way to kind of get some more ideas on how you can kind of maximize the effectiveness of your campaign and kind of what you're doing, and yeah, just tweaking it. And I think that's really the whole idea with this sort of 5-point checklist, is that that's what you're doing. You're always kind of evolving the process of your ad program. You're tweaking it, you're seeing what's working, what's not working, and it's all about having that control over your budget, over your spend, and making sure that you're definitely getting that bang for buck that you should be with your ad spend. And I think that's definitely a sort of a takeaway from that. Like just to make sure that you're advertising in the right space, in the right niche as well. All those things are really important for making sure that every dollar that you spend in Google Ads has some sort of positive impact on your business and your business promotion. So I think that's definitely a big takeaway. So those are the kind of the five key points that we wanted to cover today. And I think we've got time for some questions.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Georgia, did you want to?
Yeah. So
What do
I'll
we?
just offer it everyone. I do have a couple questions here that we'll go over now, but if you have any questions right now, pop them in as we're going. So in the original, when you first started on the screen, there's a question here, where on this screen are conversions managed?
Right, so it's on the left-hand side. They're actually referred to as goals. And right on the far left, there's goals. Hopefully everyone can see that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, you've got your conversions listed there, and you can create a new conversion action. So this is where you would create them in Google Ads, and there's kind of a few different. This is actually the one that's shown on screen at the moment. This is just by default it shows it there. But yeah, you can create basically anything as a conversion goal, whether it's a click or a form completion, or visiting, or ending up with a sort of a thank you page, or whatever the conversion you want it to be. Yeah, sky's the limit.
Great. And then is there a charge for every keyword then, or are charges per click from each keyword, or both?
Right. So kind of in the traditional Google kind of advertising world, you only pay for a click. So that is yeah. So basically, if someone clicks on your ad, then you pay at that point. There are other types of Google ad campaigns where you can pay per 1,000 impressions. But yeah, for a basic standard Google ad campaign, you're just paying when someone clicks on your ad. So even if your ad shows up, it gets that impression, and somebody sees it, but they don't click on it, then you don't pay. Yeah.
Great. Can someone write in the chat, what are the 5 key points? Will you just go over the 5 key points? Just give us a list.
Right. Sure.
Yeah,
Sure. Sure.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So starting from the top, we had the search terms. So this is a report in Google Ads, checking your search terms. So these are the keywords or keyword phrases that your ads are showing up for, according to Google. The second one was to check which keywords are getting conversions. The third point was which ads are getting conversions. The fourth point was to check the Google's recommendations for optimizing your campaign. And lastly, the fifth one was checking the auction insights. So where you're seeing what other advertisers are doing and how you can learn from them. That is, yeah, it's also available as a download from our website.
And do you have a copy of that link for the download, Jason? Because I can
Yeah,
also
it's
put
just
the
pogostick.co.nz, or if
yeah.
you Google affordable websites, actually that's a little SEO tip. I know people didn't join the call for SEO tips, but if you this is because this is a past life where I was working in SEO, and they suggested, instead of giving customers a website link, you tell them a phrase that you're ranking for highly, and if you get people to Google for it, and if they click on the link, then that's kind of a positive signal for Google. So yeah, that can help. If for anyone who's trying to boost their rankings and organic rankings, as opposed to the paid rankings of Google Ad.
Awesome.
But yeah,
Yeah.
pogostick.co.nz, and it should be on the homepage there.
Okay, I just popped that into the chat for everyone now. On these
Cool.
Q&As, the chat is disabled, so the Q&A function is the only one that the attendees, can write into, just in case you're trying to get into the chat. Let's see what other questions we have here. How do you manage ad rejections? They often do not say why an ad was rejected. So how do you find out what to address? That's a good question. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good
Yeah.
question. That's a good question. And like even though I've done Google Ads for a long time, like it's still frustrating sometimes dealing with because often the rejection is automatic sometimes. It's kind of this, they've got their bots in there that might reject an ad for no good reason. There's nothing obvious. And like in a lot of cases, all you can do sometimes is just appeal it, or double check the ad to make sure you aren't breaching any. Generally it'll come with a reason. It might be a generic reason, why it's been rejected. It doesn't sort of meet the policy guidelines. But sometimes all you can do is just, yeah, appeal the rejection, and hopefully if it goes through the appeal process a second time, it actually ends up with a real person who's looking at it and can see that there's nothing wrong with it.
Mm.
In some cases, I've actually just created a new ad, or to get around it. Yeah, it's unfortunate and it's frustrating, because it is actually pretty difficult at times to get access to a real person sometimes with Google support. But yeah, sometimes it's quicker just to create a new ad, or even in some cases I've created new campaigns just to, because it's, yeah. But firstly, check if there is something obvious, and hopefully they'll provide some sort of reason as to why. But yeah, sometimes, honestly, sometimes there is actually no reason.
Mm. Thank you. Random question, Shelley. I'd like this question actually. Could a competitor click on your ad to cause more charges?
Um, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean that definitely could happen, and I mean I've seen some funny
Roar.
ads. I've seen some ads, funny ads on social media trying to say that, basically saying that competitors have bots out there clicking on their ads. Um, like there's two parts to that. Firstly, generally Google are pretty, in my experience, and this might be different for other people, but in my experience, they're pretty good at refunding fraudulent clicks. A lot of clicks coming from the same IP address, for example, the same coming from the same person. I think they can see pretty clearly that these are misclicks. Secondly, you're actually, by clicking on, for example, if you did click on a competitor's ad, you're actually in a way doing them a favor, because by increasing the click through on their ad, that is actually a positive signal to Google that their ad is relevant. And what that means is, by increasing their kind of ad rank score, because they're getting a higher click through, for example, their cost per click comes down and their ranking increases. So it's a little bit, if competitors were out there like trying to find their competitors' ads and clicking on them and thinking, I just cost you, $2. Take that. They're actually shooting themselves in the foot a little bit, because it's, in some ways it's good for, if you are getting clicks. Yeah, so there's kind of, yeah, like I said, two parts to that, but good question, and definitely something to to consider, and think about, in terms of making sure that you're keeping an eye on your campaign, and not just set and forget, but yeah, check on
Yeah. Yeah. So she's saying, so that is a positive because it boosts the ad, is what we're
it.
saying,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah.
Great. Um, Here, a couple more questions here. Thank you everyone for your questions, by the way. How do we know what good looks like for the first, hold on. Let me see if I'm reading this correctly. How do we know
It sounded
what,
like a compliment there for a start. I was like,
I know, it's like, whoa, maybe what looks good, like for the first time Google ad campaigns? Is there a way to find industry standards for impressions, conversions, etc.?
Uh, um, I would say no, just because every business is different, and not just every business is different, but every demographic is different. Where you're advertising, what you're advertising, there's just so many variables when it comes to your campaign. And I I would say as well, you know, it's a bit like the Google recommendations, like the optimization score. We all kind of, it's nice when we get like, oh, okay, it's 100% great, awesome. But it's better if the results we're actually seeing real results for our business, and that comes down to tracking those conversions. Um, so I would say even if there were industry benchmarks or standards, I wouldn't use them as a gauge for judging whether a campaign is good or not. The real result needs to be, are you actually seeing a positive change in your business in terms of sales, inquiries, the rest of it? That's really what you should be looking at, instead of as sort of an industry standard. But yeah, I'm not aware of one being available for New Zealand businesses, but that's not to say it doesn't exist.
Yeah. Okay. Have you ever had to create a whole new ad account due to Google administration? How did you do that? If so, yeah.
Yeah, that's once again another sort of source of pain in terms of like the Google ads. It doesn't. Fortunately, I haven't had to do that very often. But there have been cases where, for whatever reason, and sometimes it can be for a really innocuous reason. Like, for example, I had one where an ad account was attached to someone's payment profile. And don't get me started on kind of the overly complicated process of having Google accounts, payment profiles, Google ad accounts. In some ways there's a real spaghetti junction, and it's I'm sure there must be a simplest solution out there, but in this particular case it was just not possible to remove the payment profile from the Google ad account without jumping through a whole lot of hoops. And it was just easier to end up creating a new account. And the obviously the downside is you kind of lose a lot of the history, and that is, it's really something you want to avoid if at all possible. Like, the actual process of creating another account is not hard. Like, it's just the same as creating any new account. But the downside really is you're losing kind of a lot of the history, and that's really something you want to avoid at all costs if possible. Particularly if you've been advertising for any length of time. That history is really valuable to your business. So actually, can I just add on that point, one thing that's super, super important, and I've seen, unfortunately, a lot of clients get into trouble with this because they've kind of given, or they've not had the keys to their Google ad account. It's so important that you have full control of your Google ad account. It's not to say, you don't have an agency or a contractor working on your ad account. That's fine, but you should have full access and full control. I've seen some real horror stories of even large New Zealand businesses getting caught by this, where they've lost years of Google advertising history because they did not have the control, and it was lost. And Google can't recover that for you. So it's so important, if you currently have an ad account and you don't have access to it, someone else is doing it for you, make sure that they give you the keys to the account.
Great. Thank you. Is it a good idea to stop and start your ads? One client wanted to start, then stop them if they got too busy and couldn't keep up with demand, etc. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I would say absolutely yes. you know, it's like the brakes in the car. You know, if there's something happening in the business where, I don't know, maybe you're running low on you don't have the stock, or yeah, as in this case, you know, you don't have the time available. Yeah, it's great to just pause that campaign, pause the ad, and start again when you're ready. And you know, I do the same. I'm not currently advertising on Google Ads, but I use it when I need it. And you know, that is one of the good things about the Google advertising is it's so easy just to pause it and then restart it when you want another, you know, bit of a boost. And then when you're done and you've got enough business and you're rolling again, just hit that pause button. Yeah, excellent idea.
It's great. And can you link a Google ad campaign to Meta or Pinterest?
Uh, I there's probably an option to do it through like using some sort of big data tool, integrating like, I don't know, maybe through Zapier or something, but there's no native integration between the two. Yeah, I mean, it's I would probably be interested in, I guess, seeing the use case for that as well, because they are two quite different demographic or two different spaces, really, advertising spaces.
I'm
Yeah,
wondering if
so
it's just to save money as well, right? So you're not advertising on all platforms. Yeah.
yeah. You know, that comes probably that's sort of a case of really stepping back and thinking, you know, where do I want to be seen?
Mm.
You know, where are my potential customers? Where do they hang out? And you know, that is definitely a good question to ask in the planning stages, because yeah, there are a lot of successful businesses that don't advertise with Google Ads. You know, they only advertise in Meta, or TikTok, or you know, other platforms where they know their customers are. So yeah, you know, Google Ads is just one of the tools in your toolkit. You know, but yeah, I'm not aware of anything that kind of would bring those two natively to come together, being two different companies. But
Yeah. We've got a few more minutes here. I've got one last big question here, which I don't even know if we'll be able to answer in 2 minutes, but I'm going to put it out there anyway. A more general question for later or an idea for another workshop or Q&A. Google is obviously a big and popular platform and service provider here and abroad, but where do other platforms fit? Example, Bing and Microsoft advertising. When is a good time or what is a good situation to look at other providers or platforms?
yeah,
Big question.
it is, and yeah, it's definitely a good question for every business to ask themselves, and you know, I guess it's having that sort of on your radar, of, you know, because even though we might think, well, who uses Bing, except in the movies, maybe, you know, like, and so you can start to think, you can start to get a very one-track mind. But yeah, it's true. There are other platforms that you can be advertising on. And the advantage of advertising on those other platforms is that sometimes their advertising rates maybe are a lot more reasonable, because they don't have the same market share that Google does. So, you know, it's, you know, I've sometimes get questions from clients about, well, should we be advertising on LinkedIn? You know, there's so many kind of different avenues of advertising, and some work really well for some businesses, and for other businesses, they should definitely stay away from them because they just don't work. But definitely worth asking the question at least, and thinking about the possibilities. And you know, I think it really comes back to knowing your industry, knowing your business, knowing your product, and who's going to buy, or you know, buy your product or service. So there's kind of all those other parts to the whole marketing strategy to keep in mind. Yeah.
Yeah. I just had a
I know
comment.
that's a really vague kind of answer,
No,
but
I mean it's a big question. There was a comment
yeah.
that OpenAI does use Bing, so that's true. I that's we're learning a lot this year. Thanks for that,
Mhm.
Alan. Um, well, Jason, I am gonna release you because it is late there.
Oh,
And
that's good.
I'm going to thank everybody for coming and for all of your lovely questions. Thank you so much, Jason, for sharing your mahi with us and coming here. If anyone wants to contact Jason, it's pogostick.co.nz. Go on there and get your download of your PDF. I'm also going to put that on our socials. So for those of you who aren't watching here, I'll put that on our social media accounts so you can see in the comments. I'll add your link there. Um, Everyone's
Awesome.
saying,
Thanks,
thank
Georgia.
you very much. People are thanking you. Great session. Great session.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jason. And thank you,
Yeah.
everybody.
Thanks to everyone for tuning up and taking some time out to have a bit of a jibber jabber with us. So yeah,
A-
hope you got something out of it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Jason, I didn't mention in before, but when I close this off and say goodbye, I also say goodbye to you. So I'll be emailing you.
Okay.
You can have a
Okay.
great night.
Fantastic. I look
Yeah.
forward to it. Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
See you
Matewa.
later. Bye.